All right, let's finish this one up. So, talking to you now about the CRI. This is a really violent terrorist group. These are the people of Chechnya, and Chechnya is this tiny part of Russia, way at the southern tip of Russia, right where it touches the Middle East. And the people who live there are mostly Muslims. They call themselves Chechnyans, and they want to create their own country out of their land. They are a nation seeking to become a state. And the Russian government does not want to give up this land because there's a whole lot of oil there. So the CRI, the Chechnyan Republic of Ichirenia, they're fighting the Russian government to try to create their own country, and Russia's fighting back too. But I'll tell you, the CRI, they do some crazy stuff. Like back in 2004, they took over a Russian elementary school on the first day of school and killed over 300 children. It's called the Beslin Massacre. It was really bad. Another time, they took over a movie theater in Moscow and gassed all the people in the theater. So yeah, the CRI, they bad people. Okay, they kill innocent people all the time, and Russia fights back too. And Chechnya is a really rough place in Russia. A whole lot of Russian military presence, making sure these people don't get doing any more terrorist stuff around their country. So, and yeah, they're just fighting over oil. So that's the CRI. All right, moving on. So that's where Chechnya is, right there in the southern border with Russia and the Middle East. Makes sense, there's oil there. And yeah, here's the video from when they took all those students at the elementary school hostage. Super messed up. They're taking kids out of that school. A lot of body bags, really messed up. A lot of dead people. And it's all about that oil. All right, here's another group. So the Palestinian people have lived in the land of Palestine for the last 1,000 years. The problem is, before the Palestinian people, Jewish people lived there. The Jewish people got kicked out by the Romans in 30 AD, and so the Palestinian people moved in and they're just living in that land. Well, at the end of World War II, all the survivors of Hitler's Holocaust said, we don't want to live in Europe anymore. They just tried to wipe us out. We want to go back to Israel. And Israel and Palestine are these two conceptual countries that exist on the same territory. So when the Jewish people moved back in, they founded the country of Israel, and the Palestinian people said, no, this is the land of Palestine. And so this is a Muslim versus Jewish conflict, and it has been going on pretty consistently for the last 70 years. Over the time, though, the Jewish nation has been winning, and they are slowly getting more and more land to become the country of Israel, but the Palestinian people would love to take their land back and call it Palestine. We're going to deep dive into this conflict a couple more times during this class, but it is the big conflict in the world today. Who owns this land? And even whatever you call it shows you what side you're on. If you call this land Israel, you say, oh, it's the land of the Jewish people. If you call it Palestine, you're sort of pro the Muslim people who live there. And if you can come up with a solution to the Israeli-Palestinian problem, then you will win a Nobel Peace Prize. Okay? Think deep, kids. Find a solution. The Palestinian people have been fighting back, and some of them are getting quite violent. The sort of terrorist group associated with the Palestinian Freedom Organization is called Hamas. And Hamas does some pretty messed up stuff sometimes. They shoot rockets at Jewish elementary schools. They equip children with suicide bomb vests. But you got to understand, these are desperate people. Like, their land is getting taken away by the Israeli military. The Israeli military has fancy tanks they get from the United States. What does Palestine have to fight back with? Like, very few options. So hopefully there is a solution to this in the future. And yeah, Israel-Palestine, we'll deep dive into this more later. So this is what's happening in history. This land used to be all Palestine, but over time, Israel is eating up more and more and more, and probably within the next 30 years, Palestine may be done for. Yeah, Black Lives Matter and Palestinian Lives Matter. Absolutely. A lot of people really don't talk about what's going on over there, and they think, oh, well, you know, it was the Jewish people's land 2,000 years ago, but the Palestinian people moved in, and they have a right to that land too. And here's Palestinian kids throwing rocks at an Israeli tank. Oh man, like, it's not looking good. And then yeah, kids with suicide vests that's super messed up, and then blowing up public buses. Ugh. All right, now here's the one nation that wants to become a state that I really can empathize. I did it with the Kurdish people. Okay, so the Kurds are a ethnic group that are Muslim, but they have their own language, some unique other traditions. Like if you're Kurdish, you're proud of being a Kurd. And the problem is, there's no country for these people. They are a nation without a state. And Kurds live all over the Middle East. And here's kind of the map of where you'll find the Kurds. So, especially between Iraq and Iran, a whole lot in Turkey. So, they would love nothing more than to create a brand new country. They would probably call it Kurdistan, and they would just have all the Kurdish people live there. The problem is there's a whole lot of oil in this part of the world, and so Iraq, Iran, Turkey, they don't want to give it up. But recently there was this big civil war in Syria, and there are some Kurds that live in Syria. And when they saw that the government was collapsing with the civil war, the Kurdish people moved in and created their own country there. Their country isn't widely recognized. I don't even think the United States has recognized it yet. But the military organization that is taking over parts of Syria to create a Kurdish homeland, they are called the Peshmerga. And the Peshmerga do have United States military support. They did a whole lot of fighting with ISIS back when ISIS was a big threat. So the Peshmerga are people I will give a thorough high five to. They are people I respect, and they are a nation that absolutely deserves their own state. Victory to the Kurds. High fives all around. So there's the Kurdish people, and they're fighting to create their own country, and that's the Kurdish flag. Yeah, and they're all about women inclusivity too. That's kind of unusual for Muslim cultures. They are capturing some ISIS dudes, ripping up an ISIS flag, and yeah, that's it. All right, so get ready for the FRQ. You got to know all about those nations that want to become states. All right, peace out.